Hi, it's Friday, so we'll give you another recap on another week in politics, I suppose, rather than Parliament. We're not in Parliament yet. Almost looking forward to going back to Parliament. Anyway, we've had a very interesting week, and I'll just give you a quick recap on a couple of points, and then welcome questions, welcome any comments, and we'll discuss them in the second half. We try to limit it to about 15 minutes. And by the way, if there's anything you'd like to put on the shelf here, and don't mention me, that's all. If you want to put something on my shelves, feel welcome to contact us or send it to us at GPO Box, let me see if I can remember, 228, Brisbane, Queensland 4001, and we'll see if it's suitable for putting up there. Australia Day yesterday, a day when we celebrate our nation, every Australian's nation, 26 million people's nation. So I'll tell you what I did. I went with my wife to the citizenship ceremony where we saw 650, I think, people, new citizens sworn in as Australians. And you should have heard the cheer amongst the 650 in their seats when they were actually sworn in. They were delighted to be Australians. They were so proud to be Australians, so happy. So it was a wonderful atmosphere there. And before the actual ceremony, I chatted with people who had received the Lord Mayor's award for contributions to our city. And then afterwards, we chatted with them and some of the guests, some of the people who've just become citizens. And after that, my wife and I went to the Apple store. It's the time I got a new phone, and so we had a look at the models there. And then we walked around town. Not many people, but it was good to just be relaxed on Australia Day. And then we sat by the riverside for a little while. And then we went out to Brookfield, where there's a nice general store there. Serves coffee, has meals sometimes. And at the showgrounds there was a little barbecue going on, and open to anyone in the community, and people were really enjoying themselves. Very, very happy. Another wonderful mood, wonderful atmosphere. So tell us what you did, if you'd like, for Australia Day yesterday, but I hope you all enjoyed it. I want to share some things, one thing in particular. Let me see if I can find it. Here's the pledge that new citizens stated yesterday. From this time forward, under God, I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people, whose democratic beliefs I share, whose rights and liberties I respect, and whose laws I will uphold and obey. Now, I made the comment down at Canberra that when we had our rally last year, it was around February, I think, and the largest protest ever in Canberra. And the media didn't report it truthfully, but there were thousands, hundreds of thousands of people there. So let's go through that pledge again, because I said at the time in Canberra, I had not felt proud to be Australian for 2 years during this COVID mismanagement, but I felt very, very proud to be at that rally, that march with hundreds of thousands of other Australians. You know, it really was an amazing, I'm still getting used to this. G'day, Anita. I just stuffed up my computer. There it is, back again. G'day, Anita. Nice to have you. I said that I hadn't felt proud to be Australian for 2 years, but at 2022 in the rally in Canberra, I felt very, very proud. And the environment was wonderful. People were celebrating the fact that they could speak freely. And that's one of the values we have in our country. We lost that during COVID mismanagement. But that's fundamental to Australia. And that's what these people yesterday were celebrating, that they were open now to speaking out. Some came from countries where that was not true, not available. Wonderful Brazilian spoke. He stood up, a huge bloke, very, very big, engineer, dreadlocks, lovely wife, and his daughter took over the stage. His little 2-year-old daughter took over the stage. But they spoke about their dreams and why they came to Australia, and it uplifted everyone. So the democratic beliefs, rights and liberties in a democratic society are something that we have to nourish, to nurture, to keep, because otherwise we'll lose them, as we've just seen in the last 2 years. Whose rights and liberties I respect, and whose laws I will uphold and obey. And a number of people commented to me afterwards that they wish the politicians would uphold and obey those laws. But that's something we have to do to protect our country. It is not the politicians' Australia. It is not the politicians' Australia. It's the Australians' Australia. And Australians are the only people, voters, who are the only people who can change our constitution. We are the entity. The Constitution is the supreme governing entity of our country, and we're the only ones who can change it. Our country is the only country on earth whose citizens actually voted in their Constitution. So these are things that we need to remember every Australia Day. It's not just a day off. It's not just a nice barbecue or time at the beach. It's, for me, a remembering of what Australia means to me and what it is and what it needs from me and from everyone here to maintain what we believe, our democratic beliefs, our rights and liberties, the respect for others, and laws that we will uphold and obey. Extremely important, fundamental. So that's another thing that I hope people can remember from yesterday. Well, the day before, we saw Anthony Albanese cave in and go to Alice Springs. He said he wouldn't go initially. He was willing to listen to the likes of multi-billionaires like Bill Gates, who flew in and had 5 or 6 hours at the Prime Minister's house with the Prime Minister, talking about things that Gates had investments in: health, climate, energy, food production. So Bill Gates wants to control these. He had the ear of the Prime Minister for 5 or 6 hours, but the Prime Minister initially said at the start of the week there would be no time for the people of Alice Springs engulfed in really what amounts to horrific events in Alice Springs. We also found out that the Prime Minister had time for Lindsay Fox earlier and spent similar time period with Lindsay Fox and actually flew into Geelong on Lindsay Fox's helicopter. So the Prime Minister has forgotten what we are supposed to be doing. We are, as politicians, are supposed to serve the people of Australia and the people of our state. And I reminded the Prime Minister in our video that the alcohol restrictions that were lifted when the welfare card was lifted, that the part cash card became all cash again, that is what sowed the seeds of this terrible crimes in Alice Springs. Young children, victims of domestic violence. Young children, victims of sexual abuse. Nampa Jimpa Price, some know her as Jacinda Price, and other members of the Aboriginal community at Alice Springs have told us this would happen. We told the Prime Minister, we told the Greens, we told David Pocock this would happen, and it is happening. It was very significant. There was no media following the Prime Minister around. There was no scrutiny. There was no fear of him making a gaffe because there wouldn't be any media to capture the gaffes. Sorry, there was fear of him making gaffes. No media. So we didn't see what was going on. So let's merge those 2 points. Australia Day, celebrating a nation, and the violence in Alice Springs. We can acknowledge the wrongs of the past. That does not make me or us guilty of what happened in the past. It does not make Australia guilty of what happened in the past. There are so many things that happened in Aboriginal nations, Aboriginal communities before the whitefellas arrived that were atrocious. There are so many things that have happened in Western civilization in the past that were atrocious. But the greatest gift that this country was given was when the British colonized this country and brought Western civilization to Australia. That is the greatest gift that humans have given to anyone else, Western civilization. Sure, we've not been perfect, but think of what we've been given with Western civilization. There are 2 basic structures for a productive, harmonious society: the family and the nation state. They are under attack, and we want, as Martin Luther King said, a united country that is not divided along racial lines, that is not divided based upon the colour of one's skin, but is united. So we believe in celebrating our nation, and I hope you agree with me. What's good about Australia? Well, tell me in the chats what you think is good about Australia. Sue Humphreys says, there has been enough. Sorry, let us get on, move forward and make Australia a great country again. We can do this. As Nampa Jimpa Price said, I agree with you, Sue. As Nampa Jimpa Price said, Jacinta Price, she said, she is sick and tired of being acknowledged. She is sick and tired of being acknowledged. And we need to get back to acknowledging all Australians, not just some Australians. I've been to every Aboriginal community, all communities in fact. I don't call them Aboriginal communities, white or black communities, all communities in Cape York. I've seen the plight of some. I've seen Aboriginals hungry for autonomy, really hungry for autonomy. They want responsibility. They want the black and white consultants and parasites stealing the money that the taxpayers give to the Aboriginal communities, stealing that money and diverting it. They want the autonomy. They want the autonomy to get on with their lives. They want their land. We, in the white communities, or we who are whites, what we've seen is that native title has taken land off people. And we thought it had been given to the Aboriginals, and we're happy about that. But it hasn't. The Aboriginals can't get the land. So what we need to do is make sure that white and black have access to the land and have secure property rights. Kerry says she lives on Mornington Island in the Gulf. Won't talk about it because I just get called a racist liar. That's not Australian. To be get called a racist liar because you happen to tell the truth or happen to have a view, even if people don't like your view, that doesn't make you a racist liar unless you differentiate and call one race superior to another race. When you divide along racist lines, you are a racist. When you divide based on race, you are racist. Albanese's voice for Parliament is racist. We don't have a voice for Asians. We don't have a voice for Italians. Book of Relief says, Malcolm, politicians created the Australia Day mess. Yes, they did. And it's up to the citizens of Australia to change who they represent in Parliament, who they represent the people in Parliament. The people are the supreme authority in this country. The King or Queen serves the Constitution, serves the country, serves the people. That is in our Constitution. What we need to do is to remember that the politicians should be controlled by people, but that needs the people to be active. If you're not interested in politics, politics will certainly take an interest in you and take an interest in your wallet. Tina says, the sins of the past, if there were, and there were, Tina, there were sins of the past, should not be borne by the people of today. We are one nation and we must stand up against this agenda of division. Exactly. Division is harmful. Division smacks families. Division smashes nations. What we need is unity, unity of purpose. That's why these 650 people at Brisbane City Hall were there yesterday to take part in a nation that is united. That's why they came here, because of our values, because of our resources, because of our opportunities. So June asks, why won't more politicians join you? Surely more can see the writing is on the wall. Flabbergasted. Sadly, June, many politicians just take orders, not from the people, but from party power brokers. So that's what we need. We need people to be shaking the politicians and say, I want my damn country back. The people are the sovereigns of our country. We need our country back. But it's only by getting active in politics that the politicians will listen. So make sure the message gets out to politicians. Someone said, why aren't there more politicians like me? Because they're hooked in a party structure. We need to liberate that and vote for candidates based upon their values, their character, and their policies, not based upon whether they have a blue party or a red party or a green party. So get back to basics. Australia was made, well, let's have a look at Australia. 120 years ago, 140 years ago, the country in the world with the highest standard of living, the highest per capita income, the highest gross domestic product per person, was our country, Australia. The United Nations in the early 2000s said that in a formal report they did, our country had the richest resources in the world. We've gone from being number one per capita income, the wealthiest country in the world, to around about 21 and slipping. Why? Because we've got away from the basics that made Australia so successful. Hard work, initiative, respect for law, respect for each other. Well, what are Australian values? Well, tell me if you agree with these. Mateship. What's mateship? It's giving everyone a fair go. It's loyalty. It's support. It's also being fair income, telling the truth, whether it's about science or whether it's about what you did, telling the truth. It's about what I call the 4 F's. Flag, nation. Family, fundamental. Freedom. And that good Aussie value, my skin starts getting goosebumps when I say these words, fairness. That's what being Australian is. It's all about fairness. It's also about being democracy. Freedom. Freedom to have our democracy. It's also about care, basic care of each other. It's also about respect for people, respect for community, respect for the law, respect for the environment. It's also about competitive federalism, having our states doing most of the services and the federal government doing very little apart from foreign affairs, defence, some protection of borders, these basic things of a national level. The rest let the states do. We want to get back to that competitive Australia where Australians as states competed with each other. And the other thing that's so important, I think, in Australian values is human progress. We value human progress. This thing came about because of Western civilization. Look around us. These things came about because of Western civilization. That doesn't mean we run roughshod over other cultures, other civilizations. We need to honour every culture in this country, whether it was the first culture, the first human culture in Aboriginals, or whether it's Greeks or Italians or Yugoslavs or Russians or Japanese or Asian or Chinese. I was at the Taiwanese 2023 Lunar New Year celebrations on Wednesday evening. What a wonderful group of people. The energy in the room. These people bring that energy to our country. They're very industrious, law-abiding, caring people. They came to our country. They've added so much to our country. And so that's why we need to celebrate every country every nationality that has given us people here. What we've seen is that, people say to me, you've lived and worked in the States and traveled all through all 50 states. America is multinational, and that's bullshit. America is not multicultural. America is not multicultural. Americans, above all, are Americans. Secondly, they're very proud of their ancestry, whether they came from Greece or Japan or somewhere else in Asia or China. They're very proud of that. But number one, they are American. I do not like a multicultural society. I like respect for multicultural people of multicultural, but we are Australian. We are Australians, number one. And we can be proud of our country of birth. We can be proud of our country of origin, our ancestry. But number one, we are Australian. So, Brett says One Nation is a party of racists. Oh, wonderful. Tell me, Brett, give me an example of One Nation being a party of racists. Give me an example of how we're racist. We want One Nation. Our title itself says we're anti-racist, mate. I'm still waiting, Brett. Cherie says, do you know why Bill Gates was in Australia? Well, what was reported, according to the media release from Anthony Albanese's home, was that he was here to talk about climate. He was here to talk about food. He was here to talk about health. He was here to talk about, energy. That's right. What qualifications does he have in any of those? None. Nothing. Nothing. He has investments in health. He has investments in climate. He has investments in food. The man was looking after his own interests, is my guess, but I don't really know because I wasn't party to the discussion. Anthony Albanese, unlike past prime ministers, won't give public access to his diary, so we may never find out. So I can't answer your question, Cherie, but they're the things that we were told by his Prime Minister's office as to why Bill Gates was here in Australia. Tony asks, if the voice is passed, will all the other bureaucratic bodies that are supposed to already provide for Indigenous people be removed, or will it be a case of just more bureaucracy? Mate, I think, Tony, you know the answer to that. It will be more bureaucracy. But this is actually worse. This is far, far worse. ATSIC, the Australian Torres Strait and Islander Commission, that was started somewhere in the 80s, I think, and was going in the 90s, and was rife with corruption. Rife with corruption. John Howard came to be Prime Minister in 1996 under the Liberal government, but they couldn't do anything about getting rid of it because of the public backlash, because of the media hype that had been built up around ATSIC. It was a corrupt entity. It was not doing anything for the Aboriginals. It was holding back development of the Aboriginals. It was so politically sensitive, though, that John Howard's government took many, many years before they repealed ATSIC. I think it took more than almost a decade to repeal it and to get rid of it. ATSIC was created by legislation. The voice is going to be created, if it's passed, in the Constitution, which means it will never be removed. And what's more, Anthony Albanese and his whole Labor team and the Greens are talking about the voice as if it was defined. It's not even defined. We don't know what is involved. We don't know what powers it'll have. We don't know what it'll cost. We don't know what the commissioners will be, or the members of the voice will be given. They can't even justify it. I saw Nampa Jimba Price. I was sitting next to her. She's a wonderful lady. I was sitting next to her in Senate estimates, and she asked Melandiri McCarthy, the senator for the Northern Territory, a Labor Party, where does the authority for the voice come? And McCarthy said, from Uluru Statement. And Nampa Jimba Price said, who is an Aboriginal not far from Ayers Rock, living not far from Ayers Rock, said, where did the authority for the Uluru Statement come from? Oh, it's there. 250 people signed. Who selected those 250 people? There are no answers. No answers. There is no authority for the Uluru Statement. There is no authority from the Aboriginal people for the voice. It is a white man's creation to lock up the bureaucracy yet again, enshrine it in our Constitution. They won't give us details. They just say vote for it. Why vote for an open check to politicians in this country? I have a very good friend, John McRae. He's in his 80s now, and he said to me, until we know, vote no. If you don't know, K-N-O-W, vote no. I will be voting no on the voice because it is firstly a racist entity. Secondly, it changes our Constitution. And thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, it does so without any details whatsoever. We don't need a voice. We need a fair go under Australian values for all people, black, white, all people, because we all have red blood inside us. We are all humans. We need a fair go. Adam Zara, mate, you're right on the money. I'll read Adam's words. I'm Maltese heritage and I'm a One Nation candidate. That's fact. Look at the One Nation candidate for Parramatta in New South Wales. New South Wales state manager is also of Indian heritage. Calling One Nation racist is misinformation. Look, I'm going to tell you this joke. I just cracked up. It's not a joke, sorry, this story. It's a true story. I was helping a wonderful candidate who happened to be Indian. He's got dark skin. And he was up at North Lakes with me, and we had our orange T-shirts on, right? You know, bright orange T-shirts, One Nation proudly across them. We had a few Aussie flags there. It was a really good turnout of volunteers helping. And so what happened was I had to go back and get a bottle of water, and I left the candidate on his own, just in front of the traffic. And a person went past in a car and yelled out to him, racist. Why? He had black skin. He was from India, but he had an orange T-shirt on that represented One Nation. That dope in the car did not see the man, they saw the shirt and the preconceptions that they had of the shirt thanks to the media. Pauline Hanson has never been racist. She is after equality under the law. She's after equality of opportunity. And so are our candidates. We've had Asian candidates, Indian candidates, African candidates. We've even had bloody Americans who've been candidates. Not as dual citizens, of course. But The point is, we've in fact, Pauline was #1 Senate candidate last Senate election. Next to her was an Indian. Raj was Indian, still is Indian, very proud to be of Indian ancestry, but even prouder to be Australian. And that's the basis of what a One Nation candidate is. It's not racism, it's unity before the law, it's unity as a nation, a united nation. David Ball, I'll read you what David says. Keep causing lefty meltdowns. I don't like the term lefty, but I know what you're getting at. I'm smiling, so I do actually like it, but I prefer the term control. In politics, there's no such thing as left and right, really. Some people are left when they're economics and right when it comes to morals and social values. So what do you call them, left or right? Look, the fundamental difference is between control and freedom. One Nation is on the freedom side of politics. The Greens, the Labor Party, to some extent the Liberal Party, sadly, is now on the control side of politics. They want to control people. We want to liberate people and give them freedom of opportunity. That's why we love having some of the people we have from India here. They have shown their entrepreneurial spirit. People from Asia have shown their entrepreneurial spirit. People from Italy. North Queensland is populated with Italians who came out here and worked, bought sugarcane farms, shared the farms until everyone got a farm, and then they went to work on their own farms. This is what made North Queensland great. The welcoming of immigrants who want to work. We don't just want any immigrants. We want immigrants who are skilled, who want to contribute, who will keep in place why they want us, why they came to our country. The freedoms, the opportunities, the respect for the law, respect for the culture. Add Indian food. We're blessed with Indian food, but let's look after Australian culture. I mean, there's so many benefits to bringing in other people. We understand that, but they have to be people who will assimilate and integrate and get fit in with our culture. That's fundamental. Janelle, you've got it. Left wing, right wing, same bird. Two wings of the same bird. I wanted to try and be much more positive today. So it's hard in this country, isn't it, we keep getting tugged back to the things that are wrong because that's what we look at, what we want to fix. We need to get back to being #1 in the world per capita income. #1 in the world gross domestic product per capita. We have the resources, we have the people, we have the resources. And by that, I don't just mean energy resources and mineral resources. We're the #1 exporters of energy in the world. #1 in the world. But we can't use our resources for generating electricity in coal-fired power stations in our own country. Instead, we give them to other people. We need to wake the hell up. We have resources in climate. No other country on earth can grow the food we can grow year-round. We have wonderful soil in places. We have water that is being wasted, that needs to be harnessed. What we need is men and women of vision in Parliament who can put all this together, create the environment, create the investment environment for Australians to really produce again. I've worked in America. I've been in work in Canada, in Japan, in Korea, in China. Americans are productive. Asians are very hardworking. But I'll take an Aussie worker anytime. I've worked as a coal miner at the coalface for years. Underground at the coalface. And then I've managed Australians. I will take an Australian worker anytime. Because what an Australian worker gives you is a spirit that talks to the boss and says, I don't care if you are the boss. Here's my bloody idea. I don't care if you are the boss. I'll speak to you directly, eyeball to eyeball, and tell you what I think. And that's what I want. That's what we want in Australia. We don't want people who are downtrodden and who are harnessed. We want people who are free. That's what builds responsibility. That's what builds accountability. That's what builds individual enterprise. And small business is the key to this country, and it's been choked in the last 3 years. We need to get small business back. These are the things we want. And for all of that, we need cheap energy. That's why One Nation has the policies that we have when it comes to energy. We want the cheapest form of energy that is environmentally responsible and cheap, effective, reliable. So these are the fundamental basics. That's all you need to do. Government should get the hell out of pretending to create jobs, should get the hell out of pretending to help people in the community, and just get back to letting the community be productive, and then the community be wealthy. That's what we need. Any other comments there? I want to finish with this. I met a lady. I won't give you her name. I asked her if she's a teacher. She's a principal actually at a special education school in Brisbane here. And I met her at the Taiwanese function because she's been to Taiwan, and she's given lectures in Taiwan about special education. She's highly regarded in this state. And what she did was, I asked her if she knew of Maria Montessori, and she said yes, and was very, very positive about Maria Montessori's work. As soon as she said that, I knew that she was on track. This principal looks at special ed children. She runs a school for special ed children. And she said that she runs her school with no rules, because rules take away responsibility. She's seen as very, very successful. She's been a member of the community clubs for the Taiwanese, supporting the Taiwanese in this country, in our city, for many years. She was highly regarded. The Taiwanese people came up to her and acknowledged her and thanked her. That's what makes successful Australians. People who take responsibility, like this lady, people who have an idea of what's needed, what people need fundamentally, and give them that and get on with it. So to that lady, whose name I won't give because we're going to have a meeting with her and make a podcast, but I'll get her permission first. We've already said that we will get back in touch with her. So I just want to say that she epitomizes to me the spirit of being Australian. She works with handicapped people. She works with bureaucrats. She works with everyone. And she's very respectful, very patient, very caring. That to me is what makes Australia great, the mateship. And we need to celebrate that and keep our nation as one united nation. One nation. Thank you.